we probably got more pictures and results this year than the last 3 years combined. And I just want to thank everyone. Keep it up. I'm not going to show nearly all of them. They'll be in our product performance book, which is so big. Ritu and Katie have now put out trimmed down versions for different regions just to make it something that you can take in a bite and doesn't cost a fortune for us to print. So those things are available. So let's go to the next slide. So free field observations. And I like this free field observations bit. So this means you don't have to take samples, spend the money, and send it off to a lab. You don't have to buy a field kit. These are all things that we see that now in the last couple of years of just really looking at the scientific literature are all supported and explained by what's going on with our product. So, I've spent the last couple of months, because this is the time of year where I redo my presentation and really try to bring in more of the science. First of all, finally, the area of soil science is getting investment, and we're seeing some good science. It's kind of sad that 5 years ago it wasn't true. So when we see more nodules, and how many of you have seen or been told that, wow, on my beans the nodulation is so much better when I use Holganix? Larger, more extensive roots. This whole story with root hairs. Well, let me just stop. What happens is there are triggers between the microbes and the plants that one or a couple species or neurobiology cannot do. Plants and microbes send out chemical signals. They also have receptors. When they sense that it's not only there's a critical mass numerically, but a critical mass in diversity, because they don't want to just get signals from their own species. They want different things from fungi, different bacteria, other things in the soil. That triggers what's called quorum sensing. They actually change their gene expression, and all these things start to happen. When that happens, soybeans will now sense there's a critical mass of bacteria, start taking them into the root. This is how we bring in those rhizobia, and then they form nodules. Without diverse biology, it's not happening as efficiently. We don't get the nodules. Of course, we know microbes have roots, but this whole story I saw earlier last week on root hairs and in nutrient use efficiency, the tip of the root eats bacteria and fungi, takes them up inside of itself. It then uses oxygen to strip off the cell walls. Some of the microbes die. What that means is all the proteins and nutrients that are in the cell wall and in those microbes that die, that becomes food for the plant. This is a big way that plants take up nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, etc. Now, some of the bacteria, though, don't die. They migrate up the root to the buds where the root hairs will form. Those bacteria put out hormones that then signal the root hair elongation. They go along the root hair and are spit out at the end, where they reform their cell wall. The whole process starts over. Those bacteria also signal others. They start making the glue that then puts the dirt stuck to the root, which is where nutrients exchange, where water is held. All of this is just unbelievably complex. And so I got to put it into a few simple pictures. But what it means is, if you see more nodules, if you see bigger roots, if you see root hairs, now you're seeing the results of diverse biology. If you see that dirt stuck to the root and a lot of root hairs, and by the way, you get a lot more dirt stuck to the root with root hairs than without, you know you're getting better nutrient uptake. Also, there's science that shows it's the microbes in the root zone that do far more to repel insects than the plant's own genetics. So for years we've been told we see less piercing sucking insects, aphids, whiteflies, less chewing damage. And now we have even more of an explanation. The microbes are telling the plant, make more of those polymers that make the leaf and the stem too tough to chew. And that's what's happening. So again, these are free. So when you pull up a root, look at the root hairs, look at the root mass, look at the dirt stuck to the roots. And I'm going to show you all this in pictures coming. And then you can show the guys, see, this is what diverse biology does. This is what it doesn't do. And we also see too much fertilizer. We don't see these things. Less dirt stuck to the root, less root hairs. We're not getting the big bang for the buck out of our soil. And instead, we're making a crop over-reliant on fertilizer input. I got to tell you, this conversation said in a way that I will do in my webinars goes over so well because of the fertilizer costs and just the benefit to the soil health. So it's not just year one, but as we go forward. So if we go then to the next slide, I'll just start showing you some pictures of all this stuff. Okay, so this is just Iowa. This is early germination. You can see planted May 11th. This is May 16th. And what I'm told by the farmer is the check is the only check that was the largest one, that the checks hadn't even emerged yet. And you can see the Holganix did. So another example in Oklahoma, just look at the difference in root mass and root hairs. Now, I know that there's diverse biology because this happens to be an organic farmer that's done a lot for soil health. Even in those situations, look at the difference in the roots. So we're still helping good soil. Next. This is a third party. So we have a lot of data coming in. This was a trial that was done to reduce fertilizer in Iowa. And look, you can figure out what pencils out the best. What I wish they had was the check level of fertilizer with Holganix. They didn't. They only did reduced fertilizer levels. But here, just dialing back the fertilizer, you just figure out, like I always say, it's a tool to help you pencil in your inputs and your outputs to get you the best return on your investment. Oats. So just to show you, we've got some different crops, and the picture says it all. So we go to the next slide. So this is BW Fusion and Biodyne's product. They're 401 Environoc. It has about 24 species of bacteria plus unicellular fungi. That's yeast. Yeast are food. They're good for the soil, but they do not do all those things I talk about in terms of cycling nutrients. This is actually, between us, the head of agronomy for Verdician Biosciences. So they're a distributor of biologicals and fertilizers and such. They were checking out our product. You can see what he's saying here in the middle of the summer. Look at the branching, the stems are stronger, etc. You can see his yield results, pretty strong. You can see what he's saying about BW Fusion there in the lower right corner. 7 different products, all this tissue sampling, and he already bought product hours for his entire farm for next year. So again, biological diversity matters. This isn't to say BW Fusion has a bad program. That's what I don't want to imply, but this is coming from the researcher. Next, another picture again, look at the root mass and the nodulation. I've been getting these for years from you and your customers. So you can see just the difference. Okay, next. Here, the guy is talking about the feeding damage, the insect damage in the check versus the Holganix. I've got another field picture I didn't include, and you can see just the difference in the green color, the line in the field. And again, here we go with the biology in the soil is triggering the plant to up its defense against insects. Okay. Now we've got some pictures from cotton. We've got some cotton trials. Unfortunately, as a lot of you know, the Mid-South was terribly dry. And so we're going to end up repeating a lot of our trials down there in the Boot Heel, Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, and such. But again, this is one of J.R. Prance's customers, and a pretty good difference. So next, same peanuts. So here you can just see the difference in the mass, and this is real money. The peg is the flower actually sends a shoot down into the soil, and that's where the peanuts form. And so to get started 7 to 10 days early is just amazing in terms of the impact that will have on yield. Next, blackberries. This is now North Carolina, and you can see the berry is bigger. And if you're in the berry business or you have customers that are growing berries, size is the name of the game, because that's the pack out. So the bricks, and there's actually a sugar acid ratio. These are sweeter. Don't always get paid for flavor, wish would, but the size is definitely, this is a huge difference in yield for this grower. We also have similar data that came out of Michigan and blueberries that I'm not showing. Okay, next. I should also add, I didn't put the pictures in, but I've got a trials in North Carolina where the guy said he has the highest cyst nematode counts in the country. And they were like 3,000 or something, just off the scale. And mid-season, he said he could definitely see the impact of the Bio 800 because there was far less nematode feeding damage. The plants looked far healthier. So I really look forward to getting his final data. Last I got a couple pictures about our breakdown product for residue control. This is in Iowa. This is a week after spraying. And look at all the white fungi. That's what breaks down residue. Not this other stuff almost every competitor sells, which are just bacteria that don't have the biochemistry to do this. It's like giving you a hammer when you need a whole toolbox. I mean, it's just not a complete tool. And then the next picture, 3 weeks later for breakdown. Again in Iowa. So remember, every 40 bushels is about a ton of residue. This is 200 plus bushel an acre, so that's over 5 tons of residue on the field. He vertically tilled both, so it's been chopped. The conditions here were perfect. So if you've heard me talk about breakdown, no microbial product works without temperature and moisture. He had both, but look at the breakdown in 3 weeks. He's got customers, this is one of our dealers in Iowa, that said they're just not even going to do their chisel plow anymore, that this is actually going to just change how they farm. They're not going to need to till in the spring. They can actually totally no-till, and it's going to change them, save them in labor, fuel, etc. We actually have a pretty big opportunity with this breakdown product. It's designed scientifically to work, and look, it does. This could be a phenomenal tool for people. So thanks for all the pictures. I think that's it.